All right, good morning, guys. Welcome to the Flip Texas podcast. I am super excited this morning. We have one of my friends, one of our lenders, a guy who's doing incredibly big things here in Houston, Texas, James Toler. Thank you for coming out, James.
Man, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
No problem. Always great to see you. Great to see you. Let's start with a couple announcements first. We do have a meetup coming up here next month on the 17th at Eureka Heights. Actually, James is going to be speaking there as well as a sponsor for his lending company as well. So definitely get with James if you have any properties that you're looking for funding on here in Texas, I believe, or greater Houston area.
Yeah, I've got probably 20 of them or so in Louisiana.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I picked up 2 in Louisiana myself that I was selling off to a borrower. He's wanting to build a rental portfolio in Louisiana. But so it's real excited about it over there.
Okay,
Got
cool.
a couple flips going on myself, and nobody wants to go over there. So I do.
I heard CJ was telling me a while back that you were trying to do these great little getaways for the investors at the casino over there, and you were trying to convince everyone, hey, come over to Louisiana.
Well.
But we'll get into that. Let's first start off. We're going to talk to James about how did you get into real estate investing from, I believe you were actually working with your family, a more corporate, corporate 9-to-5 or something like that. How did you get into real estate investing? Tell us about that.
Oh, sure. So, I worked for lived in Austin 9 years doing the toll roads up there. Worked for a family business, and what happened was, met my wife. It's always a good story, right? What happened was,
got a good-looking family.
Yeah. Well, I met my wife, and really, it comes down to really financial independence. That's get into a place where I knew that in the family business we would never, maybe down the road my dad sells the company, maybe I take it over, who knows, right? But I didn't want to wake up when I was 50 and find who knows what would happen. You know what I'm saying?
Like that you're not financially completely independent? Or?
Yeah. So when I met my wife, I started to look at what could I do to take control of my financial future. And it be on me. That was something that was important to me, is becoming financially independent. So anyway, I slowly worked my way out of that and got into real estate just because I felt like that could, I know it turned into what it did, but it had the potential to do that. If I gave it my all. So that was really how I got into it. Watching HGTV. You see these numbers. I was watching a show last night. They was talking about them making like $300,000. It didn't have any closing cost or any financing cost or anything.
No realtor's fees.
No realtor. But when I started, it looked, they would have like $80,000 or $100,000, and I was thinking, man, that's what I made in a year, in one deal. And I thought, man, I could do that. There's nothing that they did that I couldn't do myself. So that's what I ended up doing was HGTV. I got into it through that.
But I want to know the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
How, when you started,
Mm-hmm.
you can't tell me you woke up and all of a sudden you were making $100,000 flips every flip, or
no.
I don't think so. What did when you were actually say that first year or two?
Sure.
What was that first
Well,
year
I was
or
trying to
two?
figure it out. I was trying to figure out if I could even do this. And, I did a deal. The first deal I ever did, I made $4,000 on it.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, exactly. I made $4,000. And I realized, well, one, you can't do one at a time. So I would say every deal that I've done, I put some lessons together on, what's my ultimate goal is to become wealthy, to be financially independent, and I learned each lesson from each deal. And that first deal I learned was, I can't wait 3 or 4 months and make $4K. Yeah, $1,000 a month. That's taxes. I got to pay taxes. There's a lot there that it's not. I can't make it. So that was something I learned, was you can't do one at a time. Also, it was a deal from one of the big wholesalers in town.
Oh, okay.
So, they had made it appear like it was a better deal than it was. You ever deal with that kind of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had a deal. This guy texted me. This guy called me up and he said, "Man, I have this really hot deal in Bay City." And I was like, "Okay, well, my crew's already there in Bay City. Like, yeah, go ahead and send it over." He's like, "Well, I'm actually doing something right now, so I'll send it over later." I said, "Okay, no problem. Send it over later." And he sends it over to me, and it's $20K. It's listed on MLS for $150. He says, "Hey man, I'm asking $170. It doesn't show that it's under contract on the MLS, so I don't think it is under contract."
Yeah.
And then he said, "Hey man, I already did my due diligence." He says the due diligence like 2 times. "I already did my due diligence. It's gonna need $18,000 in repairs, and it's like a 2,000 square foot house that needs like a full remodel."
Yeah. Wow. No. And if you didn't know any better, maybe you trust the wrong person. That's what I did. So. Maybe I didn't lose money, didn't really make any money either, and realized that, like I said, that doing one deal at a time isn't going to work. Not to reach my goals.
Yeah.
My goals were bigger than surviving.
Okay.
It was to become wealthy quick, and so anyway, I would say, so I did a deal. Next deal, did a little better. My third deal, I made $28,000. So this was 6 years ago. So it was a little while ago. To me, that was a lot of money. And my fourth deal, which I was doing while I was doing my third deal, I made $80,000. And that pop hit. That's the first one and I was just thinking to myself, man, if this thing, if it'll sell. You ever had that feeling?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're saying you're counting the money before?
Yeah, well, no, just if this thing all works out like I'm thinking, there's a lot of money here, Mm-hmm. I hadn't had one that big.
Okay.
So it's like, I think this will work. The numbers are telling me this will work. We'll see. And when it hit and I saw that money come in, it kind of made me think, wow, I can do this. Which that might have been the most important thing in the beginning was, hey, I'm an investor and I can actually make this work. Now, what's that worth?
Okay.
As a young investor, you're just, you make $4,000 in 4 months. I can't survive on that. Maybe under the bridge or something I could survive. How'd you like my private lender to come over? Yeah, let me show you my tent here. Yeah, But that was my lesson, and I think that is, it's a life in general. You're doing one thing. You've got a growth mindset over a fixed mindset. So you're trying to learn something every time. I think that's important.
So like every single deal, you're evolving and
yes, and that's the approach I've taken to really life. Anything, it doesn't matter what we do. If it's lifting weights, if it's shaping your body, or you're learning what your body adapts to, what foods to put in, and it's a blanket over everything. Real estate is just an aspect of growth.
I'm sure that when you started that, that when you started a relationship with me or say Carlos Gill or some of these other people, you've really pushed their mindset to what's even possible. Like I remember when we were in Galveston many years ago, we were in Galveston, and you were like,
"You whipped me at basketball."
You were incredible at basketball. We need to play again.
Yeah. I got up to like 15, and then I was so out of shape that I had to stop. You remember that?
I don't know about that.
It was Cole. It was me, you, and Cole.
Kept going.
No, I stopped.
I'm thinking of the court in Clear Lake.
Okay. I was so out of shape that I was winning, and I was so tired. I just stopped. I was like, I'll let y'all play for a little bit because I couldn't keep going.
You look better. You look a lot better. You look a lot better now. You look a lot better now. But like, I couldn't even. I know you said, so that time you told me something, you're like, yeah, it's possible to make like $100,000 on a deal or something. And I couldn't even, it was a little bit harder for me to picture that. And I think it really says something that you're helping a lot of people open up their mind, it seems like, to what's kind of possible.
You know, it's kind of funny. I'll tell you a story. Carlos and I did a deal, and he made 6 figures.
I heard about that. Yeah. I didn't hear. I haven't asked about it too much afterwards, but I want. Yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
No, well, the story about it is kind of interesting. When he got into this, his mom was against it, big time.
Tell me about that. Why?
Well, because she didn't understand it. You know, it's something like your boy's working. What do they teach you? Get a job, make an income, predictable. You secure. Put in 30 hours, get this paycheck, and the idea of some crazy guy here saying you can get rich in real estate. Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of a crazy thing to accept from her. So she had never met me. She didn't know anything about me. What's this random guy filling my son's head up with?
They're hanging out a lot.
Yeah, hanging out too much.
What's he getting out of this?
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, we went to we'd done a number of deals, kept them going, kept them afloat, and he hit a big one, like 6-figure big, $100,000 wholesale fee. And when we got to closing, his mom joined. I wanted to support him. Like, I've been supporting him the whole time. You know, I was wanting to be there for him. I mean, I financed the deal as well for the end buyer. And she got there. I don't think she believed it.
Crying?
Yeah, I don't think she quite believed. That's a lot of money, right? This is somebody who was a barista.
You realize he came to that. He came to this Bible study that we were doing. I think it was me and Joshua Hernandez were doing this Bible study during COVID, and he would come every. I forgot what day, if we did it on Wednesdays or what, in Levi Park, and he would come every week, and we were like, hey, like, are you working on any deals? Like, what are you up to? And he's like, man, I'm working. It took him a long time to get his first deal, but he was relentless.
Yes,
he was relentless.
So his mom, when she saw that big check, she came up to me, gave me the biggest hug you could ever imagine. Just thank you so much for all that you've done to Carlos. Thank you. You know, was crying and everything, and I'd never met her. It was just, I'm the guy, some random guy saying, hey, you can do this. This can be done. That's who I am. And it's not until the check's cleared, the money's in the account, that, hey, you actually helped my son tremendously. It's that realization, Anyway, it was the greatest feeling, because $100,000 to me isn't changing my life, right, at all.
But if you're a barista,
well, that's years. Let's just say that's 10 years worth of income in one deal. Kind of crazy, and broadened in the mind to possibilities and endless possibilities. So that to me is more. That's more significant. You say you could have success, right? Which is, success would be me making that money.
Okay.
Significance is where you're starting to influence other lives.
Okay.
I feel like part of what our goal should be is to go from being a success to being a significance.
Wow. So I would imagine that's you've probably evolved. That's kind of partially, may or may not be why you're, even switching to lending, or why you're doing a lot of lending now. I don't know that many lenders like yourself that are going to these closings and actually having more in-depth relationships with their borrowers and showing up at closing.
Oh, I'm crazy. To me, that's real estate is about relationships. I always say, if I can't get our relationship to a 10, I like to keep it at a 0. And part of a good, solid relationship is supporting you and being behind you, backing you, encouraging you. And so I've gone for maybe less clients, but more deep. and more meaningful.
Okay.
Versus just opening the floodgates and accepting whatever comes. You know?
Yeah.
I can only do that with so many people, and that's just been my approach. Everybody has a different approach to their business. I would rather, instead of having 1,000 people at an event, I'd rather have 60, but all 60 are on the ball, and they're doing something. You know?
At your that makes sense, because at your office on the Monday mornings, it seems like it's a very connected atmosphere.
Yeah. Well, everybody's doing deals. I mean, there might be 70 flips going on in that room. I mean, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, rentals, flips, wholesales, just everybody's doing deals. And so everybody has a different. To me, I would rather do things that way. And everybody can do things how they want, right? I've always been, let me find high quality people and sew into them, and go from there.
I love it. When you started out in real estate, I know you had, I know you weren't some multi-millionaire when you started in real estate, but I believe you had a little bit of money, right? When you start out in real estate, you don't always have hundreds of private lenders, hundreds of real estate wholesalers or agents that are bringing you deals. What type of mindset, and I know you've already gone into the mindset a little bit, what kind of strategy did you have when you first started getting a good amount of deals, and what was your strategy toward networking at the beginning of your career? I find this very interesting because you're one of the people that, contrary to the real estate investing masses, you're not doing, from what I see, you're not going out there and doing $50,000 a month in pay-per-click advertising. No. or it's kind of that less is more approach, like you were saying. Tell me about that.
Well, it's the difference between hunting versus fishing. If I have 1,000 fishing lines out in the water versus getting my rifle and going out there and, I have marketing campaigns. I don't spend anything like that kind of money, but, I would rather develop relationships and have a bunch of fishing lines out, and those will all hit at different times. So that's kind of been my strategy. That's only one aspect though, there's pocket listings and wholesale deals, and your marketing will pull up leads, and I try to do all of it, but certainly, and I'll give you kind of a quick thought on that. I had this realization early on. Let's say you have 10 people that you know, and they like working with you, because people like working with you. And you say, hey, if those 10 people spend 1 hour a week marketing, and they potentially bring something to you, would you say that that's kind of like having 10 free hours of marketing?
Yes, I don't care. Yes, 100%.
And what if you had 100?
It's multiplying your...
What if you had 1,000? So if you had 1,000 people that were...
You're going to be wealthy very quickly.
And they all spent 1 hour. You could motivate and help train and teach, keep them in the game, and they spent 1 hour a week. Now, they might not sell you the deal or do the deal with you, which is fine, right? No problem. But
even just a couple deals a
year.
Just a couple deals a year or something like that.
And, if you help them grow, it's the epitome of giving value to get value later, right? So that's the mindset that I took to the approach. And then it was also growth, right? So if I grew more and more and more, I had more to give.
Okay.
Not just motivation, but knowledge, strategy, and how to do marketing, and where to put things, and how to look at the deal, right? I mean, if you're a new person, how do I determine repairs? Who's the guy that's going to me with the house? What about when the seller, you want to lock down that house? Oh, James, it's always been there for me.
It's tough sometimes, because sometimes you have so many different, sometimes when you're getting started, I feel like people have so many different voices in their ear. Everyone's telling them something different. Like, say for instance, I had this house in Splendora that we purchased a week ago in Splendora, 110,000. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 110,000 purchase. ARV a solid 200, but we'll sell it for 210. and it was a 2003 build, and we're painting the cabinets, we're doing new flooring, paint, we're painting the outside, and then we're probably going to get away. We're doing a little bit of bathroom remodeling. We're going to probably get away without replacing the roof, actually, and we'll spend like 30,000, maximum 35. So it's below 75% deal. And I shot it over to a lender that I've done over 10 deals with, and they said, man, this isn't it's not a deal we'd like to do. And so I feel like, and so many people have so many different opinions of like what you should or shouldn't be doing in real estate. I feel like they just get really set in their ways. And I feel like it's a little bit of struggle for like new people getting started. People like, hey, you have to do it this way, this way, this way.
Yeah. Well, that'd be me trying to tell you what your goals are. I'd start first with your goals.
Okay.
And then determine how to hit your goal. That's the better way to do it, in my opinion. It's not to bring you a philosophy that is counter to what you're trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay. What we're trying to do might not be the same thing. Now, if you say, James, I would like to have your results, tell me what you did, that's a different conversation. But not many people do that. Most people have their own vision of where they'd like to be. So I start with what you want.
Okay.
And then to be intentional about how to go about getting it.
Okay.
That's, to me, that's a better approach, in my opinion.
Okay, so you're thinking back. So people that are getting started, you're saying that they're thinking backwards in their head. So I love that Tom Berry class we did.
Yes.
That's actually my most important goal. Actually, isn't my income right now. It's my net worth. And so I want to get to that certain net worth level, because I feel like at that net worth level, it's a really firm foundation where I can go out and get some easier to get lines of credit or this or that. But then a lot of people are like, hey, well, how much money did you what's your your gross income or this or that? And I'm like, man, I'm not even I'm thinking about net. I have to get to this net worth by 29. This net worth by 29.
Mm-hmm.
Did you tell me about that? What do you think about the Tom Berry class?
Oh, that's my
and what
hero.
people are. Really?
Yeah.
That's your mentor?
Yeah. I mean, I've learned a lot. There's been a couple people that I've learned a lot from. I think that him in balance of everything. You can't just look at somebody's financial prospects to determine if you admire them or not.
You're saying because that's not the only thing that matters.
That's right. And I think on average and on fullness, when you look at everything, he's probably the most well balanced, which is important to me. That's family, that's all of it.
I think I saw a picture of him the other day on ad in Blake. Was it Blake Yarborough? I've seen some cool pictures from him too. I thought of him because I was thinking of what's the name of Tom? Okay, so I saw a picture of Tom, and he's on his wife took a picture. He's like on his 4-wheeler at his ranch, I think near Madisonville or Huntsville. Yeah. And I was like, man, that's really cool. I see the pictures of the guns and all this stuff, and
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, he spends time with the people that matter most. I think that's a really interesting definition of love I've heard was, if the people that you hope love you the most, that's a successful life. I really think that's an interesting thought, kind of worth thinking about. The people that you hoped love you do.
Like, explain this. Are you talking about your family? You're not like
family.
It could be your family. It could be like friends.
Yeah,
or...
it's. I think it's something to think about. I think just behaving in a way that people who you hoped admire you do. Okay. And they be genuine. And it stems from all kinds of things. I'll give you an example. You remember that deal? We did a deal. I want to say it was in 2018. It was in Lamarck.
Okay. Yes.
And that was. How long have you been in real estate?
A little over. Oh, at that point, not very long.
Not that long, right? Now you didn't know me real well.
No.
And I didn't know you. I didn't know you'd. And you're a one.
Was that before or after we met in Galveston?
It was probably about the same time.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere near there.
But I mean, you've had a very unusual amount of success. in the time you've been doing this.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Now, think about this for 1 second. You didn't know me real well. I didn't know you real well. I certainly didn't know you would be as successful as you've been. You didn't know me, right? Yeah, right, both ways.
Or just the guy pulling up in his Tesla.
Yeah, well, that helps.
He seems really nice.
Yeah.
He seems like unusually chill about buying these properties.
Yeah, well, I bought a bunch of them. Now think about this. You remember you were shorted. You were shorted at closing, and it wasn't anything you caught or I caught. We all missed it. It was $2,000.
Okay.
You remember this?
If I'm having a very vague
Okay.
memory.
It was you came back. You said, "Hey James, I think that title messed up and shorted me $2,000." This was after closing. We'd already closed.
I think you're okay now.
You remember this?
I'm starting to remember. Yes.
It was already closed.
Yes.
And this was like a couple weeks later. You
Yeah.
called me up. You said, "James, I've been going over all this, and I think actually I was shorted some money." And what'd I tell you?
I remember you sent me some money.
I sent you that money.
Yeah.
Now,
And you exceeded my expectations as well. You were like, hey, a lot of times you can put things in. It's good to put things in agreements, but you also exceeded the expectation, so you didn't overpromise and underdeliver. Like, so I remember you were like, hey, I already went above and beyond and found this other person who's going to buy the property. I don't even need you to do anything. And, it was literally 30 days later or something, we sold the property, and you're like, oh, and I already worked it out where we didn't have to pay the realtors commissions. And, I think under promising and over delivering, I was really surprised that amount of under promising and over delivering.
yeah, sure. But I think, think about where our relationship would be if when you called me, you get back onto relationships, right? If you'd have called me and said, James, I think I was shorted a little bit.
Yeah.
And, I didn't even catch it. You didn't catch, nobody caught it. It was a little short. And I would have ghosted you.
I have another, I think it's fine talking about this. Yeah, there's another investor in town. He's done over 1,000 deals. And he told me something on a deal. And I'm not going to go ahead and jump to conclusions yet. But I have a mental note of it was an outside of closing thing. And he was like, hey, this is the deal. This is what's going to happen. And I'm like, hey, he's done over 1,000 deals here in the Houston, Texas market. And, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'll hit, but last time, because I think I definitely am not scared to be anymore to be hey, listen, you said you were going to do this, what's up?
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see what happens.
Hopefully he makes it right.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting that when I get back to the idea of kind of treating people a certain way where, over time, those things, they matter. And they ultimately affect, the relationships that I think are important. And like I said, you were just getting going. You could have been somebody who came and did a deal and left. Nobody ever heard about you. But in the back of your mind, you'd have thought that James owed me $2,000. I showed it to him. He agreed with it, and he never paid me back. And you hear about that all the time. I mean, stuff like that. And that's not just money, right? That's words.
There's I had a lender that was out of. It was a weird situation, and we had to use some last minute lender because the lender backed out of the deal, and I had to use some lender out of I don't know, some state up north, Vermont. I don't know, some scammy lender out of Vermont. They had a lot of good Google reviews.
Okay. From their employees.
And it took them a lot of this business is a lot of cash in, a lot of cash out. And so we completed the rehab, and then it was it was the worst lending process I've ever been through. We requested a draw, and then it was 2 weeks before they got their inspector out. And then it took 2 weeks to get the inspector out. And then after the inspector got out, they questioned things and tried to change their story to give the draw out. And I was like, listen, just forget about it. Don't even pay us anything from the draw. And that was 3 weeks after.
Wow.
After requesting. And so I agree with you that yeah, people, you want to work with people that aren't gonna like muscle you around and stuff for sure.
Sure. Well, and in the back of your mind, it's not like you make a lot of money in one deal. That lender wasn't making some fortune off that one deal. So, but you had an experience with them and it was terrible, and you'll never deal with them again. And you'll go around telling people not to deal with them. And if you do that with influential people, I mean, you're setting yourself up for something terrible. I think my goal is to do one deal and then keep you for life. That's what I try to do. I mean, that's just whether that happens or not. Obviously, that's to play out, and that's also you're going to experience something with me, and then go experience with other people. And you might say, I've had that too, where we do a couple of deals, and then you go off, you use somebody else, and come back because, hey man, that was really simple. It was,
We could talk about these situations all day long, I'm sure, but yeah, I mean, I had this apartment. So I haven't been telling anybody about this. It was a weird deal, and bought and sold this apartment complex.
Nice.
And the first buyer that we had sold this apartment complex to, they canceled on the day of closing. It was like the hour of closing, like everybody's statements out. And I think I went and signed my closing documents at Fidelity, and then after I signed my closing documents, you're picturing the check just like any wholesaler or agent. They're like, yeah, heck yeah.
You hadn't already spent it?
No, no, because I knew how dicey this thing was. And yeah, they just ghosted the closing. They didn't answer the phone that whole day. And then I think the next day or two they popped up and they were like, hey, sorry, whatever. So I'm assuming that, so you're treating your relationships the exact opposite. So people are like consistently, and I'm sure you've probably worked with people that have like that before too, huh?
Sure. Oh yeah.
Every once in a while.
Well, the people that would do that typically aren't in this business very long.
Do you think this is a really small world?
Sure, especially the players, the big players. But yeah, I mean, the people that would do that over time, you burn through your relationships. That's what ends up happening, and then you're out of the game. You're on to the next industry.
That's not for me. I've growing up. I've looked being a millennial. I've looked at people. I'm curious what you think about this too. But I think you're a millennial as well.
I'm 35. I don't know. I'm on the edge.
Okay. Well, people. A lot of millennials would jump from business to business to business to business every year. And I looked at my friends and that were the most successful, and they would stay. They would just, even if people thought it was boring or routine, they were just like, how can I get better at what I'm doing right now?
Sure. Yes.
That's really interesting, and it's kind of scary if you see someone just jump. It's scary.
Well, it's like dating.
If you see someone jumping around.
If you're dating, especially with Tinder and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's always going to be exciting in the first month or 2 months because you're getting to learn about somebody.
Okay.
So it's naturally, the trick is how do you keep that excitement over years?
This is a very good point.
That's very difficult. But it's easy. You go out and meet somebody, you should have an amazing time with them because you're learning about them, you're growing, you're having a new experience. Everything's new experience. Mm-hmm. So, and you see that a lot of with you kind of take that approach to the life, which is, after 2 months, how do you keep the excitement? That's hard to do.
And you're trying to play the long game, you're trying to spark things up. How are you going on date nights with your wife every so often, absolutely. Or how do you think?
Well, something with my wife is she was in corporate America since she was 16. And she just left, so she was in it for Yeah. And I,
Congratulations, Steele.
What's really interesting too about that, just to give you a thought on it, is my wife. One of her main things growing up was she was never going to depend on a man. She was an independent. She is very independent, but she has a master's degree in accounting.
Okay.
She said, "I'm never going to rely on a man," and that's a great thought. But it also keeps you from obviously building the trust and building the relationship with the man that you've found, because in the back of your mind and your subconscious mind, you'd said, "I'm
You're
never
trying to do things yourself."
Yeah. And so to really go and hit heights that you never could yourself, it's going to take trust, a special level of trust. And it took us a long time to get to a place where she felt comfortable enough in me.
Wow.
And that's something that happened in January.
Wow. After how many years of being together?
Well, 10, 11 years. Yeah. So I've been, it's been something really special to us. Like today, she's at my son's, they went on a field trip, and she volunteered to be just a volunteer on her field trip. Now think about that for a second. Real estate helped us do that.
Have more time with your kids.
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe not that. Do you think in your first year in real estate, did you have less time with your kids in your first year versus like what you do now?
Think about this, Ben. We work our butts off to make this phone ring. But what happens when we get very good at it?
You're working 12, 14 hours a day.
Our goal is to make that phone ring. But what happens when you get too good at it?
I've seen you. Well, I remember in Galveston, we were call after call after. I mean, I'm on the phone. I told some of my friends joke because I'm not the most like outgoing. I'm not the most like biggest extroverted person, and so some of my friends say that they call it bin time. Oh, you were having some bin time, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh well, I'm gonna go over here, and I'm gonna have some bin time, like. And I thought I was just gonna have like a night, and it's just gonna be me and myself. I was like sitting outside. It was like I was listening to some music. I was drinking a whiskey by myself, and I was just trying to like relax and decompress. And I ended up like on the phone till like 10:30 at night.
I'm
so
the same way.
I haven't mastered the.
Well, I spent a week out in the woods.
Oh really?
Yeah, like 3 weeks ago, I left everything for a whole week.
Wow.
And I spent it out in the woods.
Was that the trip? The trip with your wife?
No, she went on a trip herself to Washington.
Okay.
And then I literally went to the woods and basically just stayed in a little RV out in the woods for a week and read. I'm not
Wow.
kidding. I had very few calls with very few people, and I just decompressed.
So you're not the world's biggest extrovert either,
Not
but
at
you're
all.
still good. You're still really good at networking and building relationships.
I'm not an extrovert at all. Not at all. But, success requires us to have a level of extroversion. And so I don't get to choose what success requires of me.
Can you say that again for everybody?
Oh.
You don't get to choose what success requires of you?
No. I don't get to choose that. You determine what qualities make up success, and then you adapt yourself to it.
Okay.
Too many people think, well, I'm just not that, so I'm not going to be that. That's a foolish thought.
You can change your.
You can change
who you are, your life.
So what you should, your goals are to be successful, to go from success to significance through the journey here, right? So you don't get to decide if you want to be significant and make an impact in people's lives. You don't get to decide who you have to be. You have to determine what is required, and then mold yourself into that.
I don't know how big you are on Elon Musk, but whenever this is kind of weird. I hope it's not too off tangent. But whenever like some people look at Elon Musk, they think of him differently. I think he's like, I picture him as like the entrepreneur of the year for 2020.
Yep.
But this guy is not. I saw an article that he doesn't even have a personal house. He just stays with friends. It relates to something you told me a while back as well. He said he's trying to go, or his personal consumption is so small compared to the amount of lives he's like impacting and the like jobs he's creating or whatever. And he was making some comment like, I literally have no personal consumption or something. It reminded me of you whenever you told me, you were like, yeah, we've done over $1 million in flipping, and I've almost spent none of this on my personal lifestyle, or zero or next to nothing on my personal lifestyle. And I was like, wow, at the time I was like, man, that's so crazy to think about.
Yeah, I've taken a lot of my investing income and just pocketed it in the bank and then lived off other income. So I've reinvested most everything that I've made right back into it. And that's how I grew so fast. There's no secret to it. I just extremely disciplined, and reinvested back in. That's how I went from 2 to 5 to 10. And then, I stopped being, one time I listed my own houses and I stopped that, and I just tried to
slowly get time back maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And then seller appointments, I slowly started trying to get other people to go on those to help. And we had a partner and things like that. But, one time I had done it all, and then, then I just slowly moved back, put the right pieces in place, which, it's been huge. I can't list 20 houses at a time. And I did. And there was a time of that. And you'd see my name everywhere. You looked on HAR, you'd see my face all over the place. And then, I just got to a point where
your phone was blowing up too much, right?
No, seriously. I mean, that's, what do you do? you have to, and then you think, what's your family life like? What's all the other things going on? Yeah, one area of my life is blowing up.
And the one is going.
That's right.
And you don't want to be that person where it's like.
That's why I hire Tom, is to balance everything with success. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
For anybody. I don't care who you are. That's very hard to do. It's, especially when you start paying for leads, and you can pay time. Like if I spend time with you and I help you develop your business, well, I spent something. I didn't just get that for free. Or I could spend money, or I could spend time too. So you get all these leads coming in and everything, and you want to maximize them. That's what our job are as investors.
100%. 100%. I've seen some investors, I'm not going to name any names, but some investors have been like, hey, I only feel comfortable to where, like, I think if you make more than like this amount on a deal, you're taking advantage of somebody. Yeah. And I just don't even see it I really just don't see it like that. We do want to, we always want to do right by people, and it's not about one deal. It's about deals over time and building relationships. But at the end of the day, I don't think you should feel bad about making money. You want to talk about that? I think you have about is making why do some people feel bad about making money, and is it what people tell them, you think, or
I think jealousy probably plays a role in all that.
Okay.
And the Bible talks about, what the root of all evils, or love of money is the root of all evil. So I think you can take that to an extreme.
Okay.
It's easy to start making money and start living a certain lifestyle, and then neglecting all the things that were important to you. You could say that's evil. What is evil? That's a. You could say, you could go off into that, but I do think it's probably a lot of jealousy, and ultimately it's bringing value to the client and to the customer, right? I mean, closing in 3 days is not easy to do.
No.
Or solving, helping them move, or having the right connections, and all that plays a role in adding value to that person that makes it worth it to them. Money is not always what's most important. You've learned that. To sellers. It is important to some sellers, and some it doesn't matter at all.
100%.
That's kind of our job, is to find the sellers that money doesn't matter.
Yes, I do agree 100%. There's other factors, and then I also do sometimes we've been working deals as well. I have a commercial deal I'm closing next week, where the seller wanted to get a good price for the place, but they didn't need all the money right now, and so they're seller financing it to us at 2.5% interest, 30-year, 20-year AM, 2.5% interest, and they're just at a different stage in life. Maybe they're like James Toler and they need some of that note money,
Sure.
coming in. But you don't know until you and you can't assume that someone, before you have a real conversation with someone, you can't assume that money's their first priority until you actually have a conversation with them or get to know what's going on. Because I see people will look. There's some people out there, they're spending so much money on these leads. I have a friend of mine, and he's spending a good amount of money on leads, and he's actually not he's not hasn't been in this business for a long time. And I told him there's some people that were asking retail for their property, or maybe just a little bit less for their property. And I said, man, and he was like, oh, that's not a deal or something. I said, man, you have to call these people, have a conversation with them, and at the least say, hey, listen, I see what, have an in-depth conversation, like, hey, have you thought about going with a real estate agent? That's where you're going to get the most money. And then let them talk. Oh, no, we don't want to go with a real estate agent. Or heck yeah, maybe I'll do that if I don't get the right offer. Okay, well, at least you're asking the right questions. Or, hey, based on, I'm seeing other investors are purchasing properties for a lot lower. And so as a local home buyer, we'd have to be, between a lot lower than this. Is it still worth us seeing what the best we can do for our offer is? Or probably not, Mr. Toler? And
getting somebody from the price that they're at to the price you need them to be at, that's what will determine if you're successful.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, that's taking all forms of leads, building the rapport, building the trust, and converting them. Can I get you from where you're at to where you need to be? Where I need you to be.
Okay.
There's a gap there. There's always a gap. There's always a gap.
Well, you're not just doing all your deals or just lay down deals.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? There's always a gap there.
Sometimes, occasionally, they can be like that. But
occasionally. Typically, there's a referral related to that.
Okay.
Typically. There's somebody gave you a layup. And the trust, they had already built the rapport, they trust them. But what I've found anyway, there's always some gap, and your ability to get them where they need to be at will determine if you're successful or not.
And even if we've had sellers where even if they're asking a price that we can pay, you need to have a emotionally intelligent conversation with them, because with how many, we had one in Lamarck the other day, and man, it was an SEO lead, and it came in, the ARV was maybe 185,000 or something, and maybe more. I'm sorry, maybe it was closer to 200. They were asking 60,000, and the place needed a ton of work, and they're like, hey,
was it on Crockett?
James probably stole it. The lead, and it needed foundation. It might be. I'd have to check. I
got one on that one.
Oh, really?
It was about that. That's what it sounded like.
And guy was asking 60, and but we didn't. Angel went out to the house, and but if you come in and just be and you don't have a real conversation with them and just be like, yeah, we can do 60. Let's sign right now. That's not how you can't just. That's not how you position yourself too.
No, exactly. Sometimes they'll think, hey, wow, they took that a little too easy. Then they won't sign.
Exactly.
They'll tell you they'll sign, but they don't.
Exactly.
There's a lot of psychology in that. It's a fun game. When you get going, you start buying a bunch of houses. How do you build the relationship up in a short period of time? It's kind of fascinating.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So it's real estate's all about relationships. And in the end, it's about relationships with your contractor, with your private lender, the relationship with the seller. That might be a short-lived relationship, but you better develop it.
Mm-hmm. Or else.
or they'll, they might tell you yes, but like I say, they won't sign, or they'll just blow you off to go to somebody else. Who do they trust?
What's weird too? This is an industry where I'm not sure how some of these industries work, but from what I've seen, some of these people that are traditionally really good salespeople, they don't do that well in this business. And usually the people that are really good at more of maybe the sales or stuff, they don't seem so salesy. You ever seen that before?
Sure. Well, I consider myself a good listener. That's probably my best skill set, actually. It's a weird skill to have, but I actually like listening over talking. I think that gets where you would say I'm an introvert in that way, but I'm happy deflecting the attention to you, not taking it. Right? And that's what a listener does, right? I sit back, I ask you questions, I let you be the spotlight.
Okay.
And I shine the spotlight on you, not on me.
How can I help you? What's up with this
Just
deal?
name it, you know what I mean? It's just
What are your goals? Like,
all that sort of thing. So, as a listener, you don't think of at the top of sales 101, being a great listener. You never hear that. But I do think that, as opposed to trying to convince you to do something, listening is.
Hey man, we've only got these funds available for the next 2 hours. If you sign right now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That doesn't work. It's really connecting on a deep level, getting them to trust that you're the person that deserves to work with them. That's a hard thing to do, and it's done more through listening than it is talking.
What and I know a lot of these things are like really interconnected on how you built your business, how you see your life, like personally, business wise, everything like that. But can you give the average listener, I want to do like some of your top tips maybe on fit. So from what I see, a couple of your really big strengths, right, are fixing and flipping. You have a lot of expertise on that. Can we give some tips and maybe 5 tips and tricks on fix and flipping, and then also maybe some tips and tricks if someone wanted to get their first private lender and or how to work with you for financing for
Sure. Well, fix and flip's just all about finding good deals.
Okay.
If you find a good deal, you should make money. So I would say, how do you find good deals?
Okay, finding good deals.
I would give a tip on that. I've made it a habit of, whenever I drive by like bandit signs and stuff.
Okay.
You see people saying we buy houses. Those are all wholesalers.
Okay.
And I like to call them. And I'll call those wholesalers. I'll start building a relationship with them, and I'll meet up with them.
Mm-hmm.
And what a bandit sign tells you is they're a hustler.
Yep.
Nobody likes putting out bandit signs. I don't care who you are. Nobody likes it. So if you were willing to do that, I need to meet you. So that's something I made a habit of, and also nobody knows who they are. Those are the mom and pop wholesalers. And those are prime.
Hold on, I'm going to start taking notes here.
Oh, those are prime to be coached and taught.
Okay.
Now, if you can teach, like I said, if you can teach somebody how to grow their business, you can be a beneficiary in their business.
Okay.
And if you go around helping people build their businesses all day long, you're going to be very successful. And that's having the value to give. It's first acquiring the value, then having it to give. It's like this. I give you a thought. Just another tip. You think about the professor who teaches college. He's got a big ego. What does he do? He takes an easy topic and makes it difficult.
But rich people and successful people will take a difficult concept and break it down into easy.
And the better
easy to understand.
Exactly. And the better you understand something like that, the easier it is to teach it, and the easier it is to accept it. And once you have people that you can teach these ideas to, and they benefit from them, they'll grow their business, and you'll be a direct beneficiary from their business. Now, you might not get all their deals. I'm not saying that. But you'll certainly be valued. If I help you take your business from 5 deals to 30 deals, or 5 deals to 20 deals, I'm probably going to get a piece of that increase.
Somehow. Or some way.
That might be
the law of the universe. Huh?
Exactly. And that might be, hey, James is a good guy. And, you don't even do a deal with this guy. It was actually that guy that you were, and it was building a little relationship with him that introduced you to that guy. That happens all the time. So teaching, right? I mean, to me, I think getting better, becoming a better student so you can teach and sow into other businesses, you'll be a beneficiary from that. That's a tip.
Okay. Okay.
And also, anytime you can philosophize ideas in a way that you can explain them better, you understand them better.
So for me, or for anyone, tips to growing more as like a person, an individual, a business, is you're saying explaining things better, breaking them down better.
Yes, and teach them. What do they say? The best way to get pounded idea really deep into you, is to learn it, to do it, and then teach it. Learn it, do it, teach it. And then the better teacher you are, the more convincing you are, the more charisma. And
there's certain things that I didn't even certain things that I didn't even realize that I was doing until I taught them or whatever. I didn't even realize, like, oh, this is what I'm doing with sellers is I'm telling them, hey, that should work. What I'm gonna do is let me put you on hold for just a second. I'm going to confirm with my partner one more time because I want to make sure we can get this done for you. Putting them on hold for a couple minutes, like right when, and then get their approval first. And okay, congratulations, great news. We're going to be able to make that work for you. Whatever. I didn't like think about all these things, think about certain things. So you would say that as well, that when you teach it, you're like at a higher level of it.
Sure. Yeah. So I think that's flipping. I feel like that's a good way to do things. I naturally enjoy it, so I think I'm a teacher at heart, so it kind of goes well with what my nature is. But I would say in business, it's been phenomenally successful approach.
What do you think about in terms of this? That next question about how does someone get their first private lender? And then or how do they work with you on the lending side? Maybe they have a deal that
I think you to get your first private lender, I would say do deals. Find deals, find your contractors, get everything lined up.
Okay.
Because I like to know who your contractor is.
Oh, really?
I usually ask. Well, I mean, think about it. If you do a deal and
because you're a very relationship.
But I want to know.
It's the biggest risk, right?
That's right. So if you come to somebody and you have a great deal and you're like, you know nothing about construction and you don't have a contractor, you're primed to be taken advantage of. And ultimately, as a lender, I'm going to be stuck with that problem. You'll lose all your money, right, in the deal by being taken advantage of by a contractor and be put in a terrible spot, and I'll be put in a terrible spot. So I feel like finding somebody you trust first is really important. You trust their quality, you trust that they'll take care of you, you trust that they won't just, when you give them a draw, that they disappear on you. Up front, right? Hey, can I get some materials, and everything, and you give them $10,000, and then you never hear from them again.
Yep. And so you've gone through some you've been in this business.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you've gone through some good contractors and bad contractors.
I've never been burned.
Do you have things you? Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I was about to say, do you have some things you look out for, or you tell borrowers to look out for?
Never. You don't want to pay. So in the beginning, when materials are needed, I put them on a credit card. I don't give them cash.
Yes.
So and then I always stay ahead of them. So in other words, they've done $15,000 in work and they've received $7,500.
Yep.
So if you're always ahead of them, they're not going to screw you.
Of course, because it's
Because if they leave,
they don't have money to run off with.
Right. That's right. So that right there, it's kind of like this too. If you take a barrel full of money through the ghetto, you're asking for problems.
Yeah. Is
that a fair thought? Let's say you put $1 million in a barrel. I'm just talking a wheelbarrow, and you roll it right down the middle.
It's like why are you gonna
Do you think something bad would happen?
Well, you're asking. You're putting yourself in a position of weakness.
Bingo. You're doing it in an environment.
That's what I think. Same thing as when maybe you don't understand all the costs, or it's some of this stuff's simple. Like, okay, let's go online and let's actually look at some of these prices.
Yeah. Or you overestimate, and that's the other side. If you don't know overestimate the rehab so that you can come out okay.
But then you just make more money than you thought.
Well, good.
I don't think in this business. I'm curious what I have some interesting. I have plenty of questions. What percent of borrowers do you think go over budget on their rehab?
Most all of them right now. Yeah. So from it's just like I would say overestimate your rehab in anticipation of that with rising cost of everything. I need to make sure that the borrower has enough capital to handle that. So I need. It's kind of like this, right? If you had your family, let's say you had your wife and your 3 kids,
mm-hmm.
they're in your car,
yep,
and you're about to go over this bridge, and it said that it's a 10,000 max capacity bridge.
Okay.
And your car weighs 9,900 pounds.
It's kind of close.
Are you going to go down to find the next bridge?
Yeah.
You probably are, right?
Yeah.
You're cutting a little too close with your whole family in the car.
Yeah, I'm not going to cut it close
So
to the family in the car.
that's, to me, I think some of that's the same way.
Okay.
You can't cut it close. You have to have a margin of safety.
Yes. Okay. So that's why we're estimating proper repairs and we're buying deals with equity. You're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
That's very important.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious if you've ever done the same or this is what you see from borrowers. But yeah, I mean, we had, I think it happens regardless of. I think earlier I was talking about somebody that's done over 1,000 deals, 1,000 rehabs here in Houston, and I know for a fact that that they've gone over budget on properties, even still to this day after 1,000 rehabs, and I know for a fact that they've still gotten caught by the city with their pants down, and the point of the story is what I was saying is I had this property here recently where we had the budget all planned out and we still went over budget a lot and we had to that money was directly cash stuck in the deal. And if I think it's completely 100% possible to do deals with zero out of pocket, right? Mm-hmm. But I feel like you have to be very kind of savvy and kind of smart to figure out how to work these deals with zero out of pocket, because if you do something wrong, then all of a sudden, hey, it's going to be an additional $20,000 to finish the rehab,
if you didn't have money to begin with and you banked it on zero down or the zero out of pocket, that'd be a problem.
Yeah.
Be a huge problem. That's part of why I didn't like to use the money. That's why I didn't like to spend investment money.
So you had like a reserve.
Yeah. I just threw it in reserves and it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it didn't matter. There's a certain point where it was, you have $700,000. If you go over $5,000, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And if you had 20, and 5,000, that's significant.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say, over budget a little bit. Don't get crazy with it, but just over budget what you think is going to happen.
I would say, in my opinion, you should do like 10% for sure. Like 10%. Like, so say your budget's like I don't have my phone here for my calculator, but yeah, for sure. Like put in an extra 10% maybe. Mm-hmm. You think that's like
something like that.
At least 10, 15.
Yeah. I think then it's like I said, it's in doing 2, 3, 4, 5 at a time, 6 at a time, 8 at a time. That's where the real wealth's being built, in my opinion, in this game.
Do you? This is a good topic as well. I've seen some people. I can tell they're kind of lying about this, about how and I've seen a post by you. It was a really real post about how many times. So say if you're holding 10 property, you're flipping 10 properties at a time, or you're holding 10 properties at a time. You're not actually rehabbing 10 at a time if you're holding 10, because you've already finished some are sitting on the market. So if you're holding 10 at a time, I saw a post from me that says, hey, listen, the average flipper will be able to flip those 3 times a year. Mm-hmm. But then I see some on that same post that some people are like, man, I flip houses in like 30, 45 days. No. I know that. I mean, I could sniff that BS a mile away.
No, you got a hotel mine. I bought one in Alvin.
Yeah.
We bought it for they were asking $268 and we bought it for $221. So was a pretty significant reduction, and then we sold it for $260 to a hedge fund.
Okay.
And closed in 30 days.
Okay.
So
What do
that's
you-
doable.
What do you think? Okay, so say and you have to plan these things, because in terms of just like planning, like you said, your capital outlay and everything, you need to know, like, you can't have if you're doing a full rehab, you're doing a full rehab on a 6,000 square foot house. Not everyone does 6,000 square foot houses, but 7,000 square foot house, you can't expect that rehab to be 30 days. Hey, we're gonna like on this high end one we're doing in Baytown. I knew that there was risk of like, hey, we're not gonna be holding this thing for, we could be holding this thing for well over 6 months. Way over 6 months. We're not gonna be holding it. Do you think that people need to have, like, what expectations do you think people should have for holding the properties or like turning the properties here if they're doing full rehabs?
Depends on the days on market of the area. Depends on the price point.
Okay.
I've always tried to stay within price points that are within the masses. Because when you get into price points where you have a select buyer, you can get yourself in trouble. And that's because the taste of that specific buyer has to match what you did.
Yep.
So you got 3 buyers in Houston interested in your house. That's a problem, right? You want 100,000 buyers. And so there's always a risk there. Now, if you do
maybe, maybe not.
well, maybe not.
Yeah.
But
That's
my
ideal,
philosophy has been get in and get out. So I know I can.
The masses are quicker.
The masses can be quicker and it's less risk. Remember, everything you have to weigh with
You
risk.
were talking about that risk to reward.
That risk has to be considered when you're investing.
Mm-hmm. When you're signing these loans and you have them sign a loan for, say, $1 million or whatever it is, heck yeah. Can you sleep? Can you sleep at night?
Well, can you sleep at night? Do you have the reserves in case this thing goes sideways to float this for a very long time?
Yeah.
That's a problem, I mean, it's. Then you have other factors. You're not even talking about the market, right? Mm-hmm. The risk of the market itself blowing up. So what happens if interest rates have done what they've done? They've gone from 3% to 5.5%. Well, that note that's a big note now. You've doubled interest.
Yeah.
On a homestead. That's a major problem for
the average individual, or
And so you have to consider risk has to be considered with everything, not just the area it's in. Yeah. There's market risk, there's buyer risk, there's location risk.
You've changed, but talking about this, because you've changed your perspective a little bit, I know, because you purchased a property in Santa Fe, right? I don't know if you're planning on moving there or second home or what, but tell me about why you're doing that a higher end flip now in Santa Fe. It's over $1 million. You're gonna be selling for over $1 million, right?
Probably not that high, but it's gonna be up there. The land out there, give you an example, there was a house sold right around the corner it was an acre and a half, 1,700 square foot, sold for $450. So I bought it 5.5 acres. 2,500, 2,600 square foot with about a $200,000 barn, 10 stall barn, concrete.
You should be, you're gonna, And how much you buy for again?
$575.
Okay.
So.
And it needs like rehab. You gonna rehab this thing?
I'm putting about 25,000, so not really.
That's not a full rehab.
No, not at all. No. It was already pretty much. They lived in it. This is not like, it's not really a gut type house. It's. Okay. I'm gonna paint it, the flooring's pretty good. I'll do some stuff in the kitchen. It's really for what this house is, it's very, very minor. Okay. I mean, it's not, it didn't flood, never flooded. Brick home. Okay. Lived in. On slab. Clean. It was.
And so that risk to reward is worth it for you? And
my thought was, an acre out there goes for about $100,000.
Okay.
So I have 5.5 acres.
Okay, so you're at $500K. So you're buying it for closer to land value. You're saying.
Yeah. It's got a pool.
Oh, that's nice.
It's got a big barn. It's a big house. So.
I know you think this as well. I personally think there is a buyer pool out there for people, successful business owners, individuals that want a property.
Heck yeah.
I know there is too, because I had him on my podcast. We had Brant Phillips on the podcast on Tuesday, and incredible stuff. But he likes this. He likes those type of properties. We were talking about something, and
Well, I'm not saying there's not a buyer. I think that you'd rather be in a buyer pool where there's 100,000 than maybe 10.
Okay. So at 200,000 price point, it's a pretty safe.
I think so.
Safer bet.
I think, and so I'm taking a risk as well. But I mean, I have a very unique property, and I have a lot of equity. I mean, I have $300,000 or something. So I mean, and I bought that cash.
Okay. That's it. Yeah, that saves a lot
Yeah.
of a lot of fees for sure.
So that was a part of all that too.
Yeah.
But how long will it sell? I don't know. Could take a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's a risk. That's all. I mean, it's
You never know how these deals are
You
going to
don't.
always
I mean,
turn out.
you
So,
don't.
but
You
you hedge. But you're saying you hedge that risk by buying it with equity, by doing your due diligence, all this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, an acre and a half sold for $450. I mean, it's smaller. So
What are you? I know you've had a little bit of experience with like these other asset classes. Moving forward for James Toler, I know tell me about the next 10 years with your growing the next 10 years in real estate, your family. Are you going to just continue to keep doing lending, go up in your lending, or maybe are you doing any other types of real estate assets other than single family yourself? Or
man, I hadn't thought about it. I mean, right now,
okay,
my goal is to have $100 million lent out. We have about 26 million as we speak right now.
wow,
Yeah. And so that's my number. I mean, even when I was flipping houses, I had a goal to hit, to flip a certain amount of houses at a time.
mm-hmm.
And that's all, I'm kind of singular purpose in that way.
So you don't look 10 steps down the
Not
road.
really.
Whenever I think that's an issue for some people too. You're saying you're just like you're not asking some questions about that you don't need to know right now.
Yeah, no, really. I literally want to develop the lines. I want to develop people so that, I made a post the other day. I said $100 million having helped create 100 millionaires.
I saw that. Tell me about that more. Like that, I didn't understand.
Well, it was $100 million lent out.
Okay.
So if I can help create 100 millionaires,
A lot of value added to their businesses. Wow.
that's kind of my goal. So $100 million lent out, having helped create 100 millionaires.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So that is my focus. You say 10 years down the road, I mean,
Create 100 millionaires.
yeah.
Wow.
That's through knowledge. That's through deal flow. And I would say I've helped create a few now. I mean, in 10 years,
That's for sure.
I hope to have more, help create more, and it's just teaching people what I've done. That's all, in a way that's understandable, duplicatable, and doable. Ultimately, like you can do, just like Carlos. Hey, you can do this. People in his life saying, "Who's this James guy? Who's this guy?" Well, it ain't until that check's cleared, and you saw that in your account that you said, "Hey, James is actually onto something here." And that might be, Carlos might have been shocked at that.
I'm sure.
I'm sure he might have. That hey, James had been telling me this whole time it was possible, and now it did. And the people who said I was full of it are in my arms. Yeah, I say, thank you for what you've done.
Keep going.
Well, I say, and a lot of that's just, obviously, people have to work hard at this, but and I'm there right alongside them the whole way. But if you can just have people that are sowing into you constantly, I think, and you're willing to put in the work. That's who you have to find.
Well, thank you for really sewing into me and helping increase my open my mind to what's possible. I really appreciate it, James. Where is the best place for people to help you, reach out to your lending company?
I'd say Facebook.
Okay.
Probably the easiest way to get a hold of me.
And that's James Toler on Facebook.
It's James R. Toler. Yeah. Yeah, I had a buddy of mine had his middle initial, and I thought that was cool. I don't think I have R anywhere else. I just thought it was really cool. Just kind of look more professional. But it's James Toler. Yeah, man, I would say anybody wants help getting started or looking at a deal, loaned on my first, looking at doing next week. Will be my first loan on an apartment complex.
Nice.
So it's a 30 unit in Alvin.
Nice,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, it's 1.3 million.
That's a good.
It's a really good deal.
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
Good, safe. That sounds like a pretty safe risk to reward
is.
loan to me.
That's so. I'd love to do more commercial.
Okay.
I think there's a niche there.
Nice. I think there is
as
too.
a lender. I don't think a lot of lenders. It's a little too big for most. That's what he found, and it's out of the sweet spot. I like finding niches.
Let's talk about that. Because in what I've seen, and I try to take a little bit of nuggets from a lot of different people. So like I'll take something that say like Boris tells me about apartments or commercial, or I'll take something else here. I think from what it sounds like, in a lot of these commercial niches, or say in real estate, even in real estate, I personally think when you're flipping houses, I think like that 500,000 price point is really nice ARV range.
Yeah.
Because I think it's not them. We probably shouldn't be talking about this in the live, but I think when you're hitting that ARV of 500,
scaring a lot of people.
you're scaring off a lot of buyers. But in my opinion, 500, if it's the right area, it's still a really safe area to flip in.
I think so. Yeah.
And then on that point though, in the commercial space, would you say that like 1 million to 3 million,
Exactly.
1 million to 3 million point? It's like, okay, this is a good sized deal. There's still mom and pop landlords here. Maybe not all the hedge funds is worth the juice is worth the squeeze for that.
That's a good loan. $3 million loan. That's soaking up some money. You say 100 million. If I want to loan out $100 million, and you add in a commercial portfolio of $1 million here, $3 million here, $2 million here, that might soak up $20 million. $20-30 million pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of single family houses.
Mm-hmm. That's yeah.
At $200,000 a pop.
Even just like the transaction coordinating. Well, I mean, it's not like you're doing all that, but still.
Yeah. That's so finding niches, finding areas that maybe you can dominate and be the big fish. Kind of like Louisiana.
Tell us about we didn't even get into that.
Sure.
We'll tell us about Louisiana. Why Louisiana? What are you doing over there? And how can people work with you in Louisiana?
Well, because nobody else wants to go there. I was speaking to Tom Berry the other day, and I was like, yeah, I've got a lot going on in Louisiana. He was like, well, go for it. It's like, good luck. He's like, he doesn't want to be over there.
Why do other people not want to be in Louisiana? Why are you there?
I just think there's certain areas in Louisiana. I like that Lake Charles area.
Okay.
That's a good little area. I kind of think of it like Baytown, LaPorte, and Pasadena, Deer Park.
Okay.
You done anything over there?
Yes, 100%.
Good area, right?
You're saying the type of area.
Yeah. A lot of blue collar, a lot of old work, a lot of jobs.
And there's some old money, some people that have some money over there as well too.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah. But a lot of W-2 income to help qualify for the mortgages. So in that little Lake Charles pocket, that's where most all my loans are, and the deals I'm doing is in that one pocket. And it's a reason to go to the Golden Nugget. But I just think it's a good niche. There's really not many lenders over there. There's not a lot of investors to compete with. I had a wholesaler bring me a 52% minus repair deal. A wholesaler brought it to me.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wow.
Yep.
Trying to collect myself. 52% minus
Yes.
repairs.
And they brought it to me. I was like, you'd never see this in a million years.
What's the ARV on this thing?
It was
That's
310.
insane. That's insane.
Yeah.
So you're buying it like 100 or
Yeah.
70 or?
Yeah. It's,
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
What problem are you solving? So I guess you already kind of said a little bit, but I guess in some of these niches you're solving a problem that others can't or aren't or for some reason.
I'd just say I'm small enough to look in the nooks and crannies. If I was a $300 million fund or something, I wouldn't want to fool with all this.
Okay.
So I think it's an evolution of growth.
Okay.
If I had $200 million lent out, I probably wouldn't either.
Okay.
But I got to get there.
How are you sourcing? The only reason I'm not doing deals over there is just like I've worked so hard through the years to build up mostly the contractors here. And so, but then again, it's not rocket science. You can pay your guys to go to other places, or you could build,
Well, if I had a
build
50
some relationships.
If I had a
and come to each other.
52% deal minus repairs, you'd probably figure it out.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'd figure, yeah.
That's just what it is. You know.
Okay, so you're sourcing, you're building new relationships in that market with contractors, things like that.
Yeah. And investors.
Like private lenders or
No,
buyers?
Yeah, buyers to buy houses and then.
Well,
you know.
yeah, let me know if you have any 52% minus
I
repairs.
will. Yeah. I'll sell it to you from where you're used to buying them at. Here.
Okay. I'll have to think about that. I'll have to think about that. I think Louisiana qualifies for a small discount.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
I heard the title work is like people have told me that like I think it's Jamal, CJ's friend Jamal.
No.
He told me that a lot of the title records are like really bad
They
over
are.
there or something.
They are.
Or like
They're
it's like really like pulling teeth to get a deal closed over there. You find that or?
Yeah, I've seen that. You know, it's not done the way to get a clear title can be a headache. Yes, some of them you can't. You can't get title insurance and you don't do the deal. But yes, they're right. Yeah, they got a problem over there with getting a lot of abandoned houses that'll just you can't get a clear title on them.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I would encourage people to do is find. That's what they say. There's riches and niches. I believe that.
Riches and the niches.
Yes. So find a niche that you like, that you can take advantage of. That's all I do.
Okay.
I'm staying in the market, understanding the market, and where do I want to be in this market? Where am I needed?
Yeah.
In this market.
Yeah. We really like doing deals in a lot of like the surrounding.
I noticed
areas. You know.
Yeah. Which is smart. Brant Phillips does that a lot. He's in the outer skirts.
I like that. Cool, man. Well, sounds good.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much, James.
Anytime.
And appreciate it, guys. We will talk with you soon. Make sure to subscribe, hit the thumbs up, comment who you want to see on the podcast, what questions y'all have, and hope y'all have a great week, great weekend. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.